I really didn't imagine myself doing it, but I actually managed to do it and realized I could do it, and therefore, sort of was never afraid again. Do you know what I mean? Once you do something little, you can kind of draw on that experience. So I think it's all, to borrow a phrase, it's grist to the mill, isn't it? So take chances, try things out, even if you think this is going to be really rubbish and I'm going to be really rubbish, have a go. And 9 times out of 10, you don't fall flat on your face. You do actually come away with something positive and really grow. And that's what I try and help other people, to do as well. And I think it's really, really important to work with your female colleagues, to sort of support them and, just, be kind, I suppose, is ultimately what that's all about, isn't it? Be kind. Okay?
I've been doing this show. I've been doing show for years now. I did not even go live on Facebook. I forgot. I've, I've only just. It's like one of my listeners called me just now. She said, "You're not live." I said, "Yes, we are." Sorry, Facebook. So we've actually just gone on, right? So it's
that's okay. We are having wonderful discussion, so I think that's why it's all okay.
Goodness. Hi, Facebook audience. This is Davina from Teacher Success Coach. I've actually just made a real boo-boo. I forgot to stream live, and I was just talking to my audience, asking them questions. And then halfway through, someone called me and said, "Oh, are you on? I have not seen you." And I said, "Yes, we on." When I look, I realized that I had not streamed onto Facebook. Right? So we will just continue the conversation, but just introduce yourself to my Facebook audience. Right. Sorry, people. Okay. Lucy, would you like to introduce yourself, please? I don't believe this.
I'd love to. Maybe it'll be different this time. I don't know. I'm Lucy. I have been a teacher for 7 years. And through COVID, I started my own online coaching business to help coaches and teachers with their online programming and training. In my degree and through my career, I've started to work more in my school on the curriculum side and teacher training side. And so through COVID and having wanting to do more, I've translated that into an online business. I'm still doing both, working full-time and business. So it is a lot, but I'm very excited to be here and to be here with these awesome panelists.
Thank you very much. Annie?
Hi, I'm Annie Powell. I'm a history and sociology teacher based in London. I teach in Hackney for secondary school, and I have had various roles across my career, which is a sort of fairly long one now, and mainly around either curriculum leadership, curriculum design as well, and teacher training. I've taught at universities and for teacher training. And I work with newly qualified teachers as part of the early career framework nowadays. Okay.
Thank you very much. Catherine?
I am Kathleen McCaffrey. I was a teacher for 17 years, and the pandemic really changed my direction, and I began to create a company to change the service and delivery of spelling and phonology for students, really teaching differentiation. Then I moved into getting a PhD, and now I work at the Department of Education as the ELA consultant for our state.
Thank you. Saima?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. My name is Saima, and I'm an educator in the United Arab Emirates. So unlike the other panelists, I'm still a very new and recent educator within the field of special education, which means I help special needs students with their social and academic development, and I also support them in subjects like science, maths, and English. Apart from that, I am looking forward to having this wonderful conversation and discussion that we were having earlier as well before we started the live stream. But hopefully it's going to continue, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you very much. Louise?
Hi there, my name's Louise Cole. I'm a further education lecturer, teacher, tutor. I work with young people, teaching vocational courses, coaching, mentoring, and also personal development, employability for adults also in the community, in prisons, in adult education generally. And that's me. I also work in the Caribbean as well, where I sometimes reside.
Thank you very much. As we were talking earlier on, sorry, Facebook people, we've already started the show, right? As we were talking earlier on regarding how do you empower yourself as a woman, and how do you empower women around you? So Annie have actually answered. So I'll now go to Catherine.
So I have to say, I am terrible with myself and I'm always the last, right? I'm always the last one to, you take care of your family, you're empowering everybody around you. I don't put it as much as me, and I think I need to work on that. But I think I take the same ideas that I do in the classroom. I just now apply it to the community here, spreading kindness, making sure that I see everybody's unique gift and saying, thank you for what you do. And in this role, I'm really trying to make educators and others shine and be successful. So it's really spreading that and sprinkling that around. So really, I guess, looking at them and acknowledging and valuing what they bring to the table.
Thank you very much. Simon?
Yes, so it's just going to be an extension to what Miss Annie and Miss Caitlin said. I know being kind to yourself is very important, and definitely to others as well. But I feel sometimes, like Miss Caitlin said, we miss out on ourselves because we are busy looking after people around us. So I think for me, being new to this field, there are still a lot of things that are trial and error for me. So I'm still learning it. So I think the main thing for me is to be kind towards myself, and also most importantly being forgiving towards myself. It's all right, I'm going to make mistakes and I'm going to learn from that. I need to implement that for myself first, and I think and I hope to have that perspective when I look at other people as well. I do not want to hold on to grudges or point out their mistakes, but understand that it happens and be okay with it.
Thank you. Thank you. I just like that, what three of you say in terms of we need to think of ourselves first, because if we don't give to ourselves, we have nothing to give other people. So it's important that self first. And even when we think in terms of self-love and self-care, when I actually coach teachers, they're forgetting to give themselves self-love and self-care. Because if we don't give ourselves, we're not able to give anybody. And how are we expect others to give us if we're not giving to ourselves? So that's very, very important. We need to remember ourselves. And as women, as parents, as educators, we are way down the bottom of the list. We can no longer be at the bottom of the list. Louise?
Absolutely, I wholeheartedly agree. How I empower myself is being in the sunshine, taking regular breaks, journaling, having support groups, my own personal development, which I think I try and pass on in terms of my teaching. I think it's very important to not just be teaching the curriculum, because, particularly during COVID, how are you empowering your students? How are you supporting them mentally? I remember doing classes and just asking students how to feel, how's everything going? And I just put down what I was meant to teach and just did that kind of check-in for the first 10, 15 minutes of the lesson. And that really kind of, I think, helped to connect with students, to empower them, as well as empowering myself as well.
Thank you very much, Louise. Lucy?
I keep forgetting to unmute myself. I work with, in my classroom, 9, 10, and 11-year-olds. So I am really in the pre-teen angsty moments quite a lot through my day. So I feel like the women or the girls I empower the most are the girls in my classroom. I've done a lot of training to help support them, how to help them with different situations. And every time, you're sitting on a training, sometimes it's really engaging, sometimes it's not. And I just remember, like, I'm doing this to be able to help them. That's not to say I don't empower other women around me, but the girls in my class have been my focus for the last 4 years in a really big way. And I've also learned a lot, and also teaching them, like everyone else has said, we need to be kind to each other, but also to ourselves, and forgiving ourselves when we make mistakes. I also have grown up through my school a lot as a 20-year-old in my 20s, with more and more responsibilities. So empowering myself, I look back on who I was when I started at my school 4 years ago, and look at now as about to leave my 20s and saying, like, wow, I've done so much. And looking back on that and like who I was when I began at this school really empowers me. I also feel very empowered when my students can like solve problems on their own. And I'm like, yes, I helped them, giving them the tools to do that, not just solving one problem, but helping them give the tools, in turn empowers me. And to be quite honest, my mother is the most empowering woman around me. She is a total girl boss. And I think whenever I like need an extra little boost, I call her. She just texted me saying, like, can we talk? And I forgot that I was going to be on this panel, and I can't wait to tell her, hey, guess what I did tonight? So I think also surrounding myself with people that are going to empower me helps myself as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. It is so very important getting people around us in our space who are empowering, because it rubs up on us, which is very, very true. Thank you very much. We do have some men who would like to be, our, male advocate. So how could we engage and inspire them to continue to be the male advocate for us women? Catherine.
I think then understanding the perspective. So when you want to empower anybody to understand various viewpoints, you've got to have conversations, you've got to have that perspective, and you've got to use that word "and" a lot, and really kind of get into people's lived experience to understand how everybody is impacting that situation. So just continuing to have the conversations and to learn wherever you go, because we learn from each other. It's really important.
Thank you. Annie?
So I'm also the mother of a 21-year-old young man, and one of the things that my husband and I have both tried to do in bringing him up is, to show him that he should respect women, and that it works both ways. And obviously we're living in an age where there are some really quite malign influences, particularly on young men, in a way that I can remember some of the attitudes when I first became a teacher, and I was teaching in quite a tough area, and some of the boys in particular were getting sort of quite chauvinistic ideas, maybe from their own fathers, I don't know. And I felt that it kind of gone away, not completely, but was not so common. But recently it seems to have come back up. So I think if those of us who are parents, I think it's really important to bring up your sons in a very sort of, and daughters obviously, in a very equal an empowering way. And again, also working in secondary schools, I think it's really important to have model how you want people to behave, and both explain and demonstrate to boys and girls how what is appropriate behavior, and get them to think about why they should be treating everyone with respect and not using some of the kind of language which is sometimes used, or doing the things which you sometimes see. So you have to challenge behavior sometimes, but explain it rather than making people defensive. Actually explain why that's not a good idea, why that's not acceptable. I mean, I have to say that Mark, who is my other half, has been my biggest advocate, and this, is really incredibly supportive. So there are, people out there, and men who want to do the right thing, and I think it's a really good idea to try and empower them, and thank them. Not that anyone has to take over, but that recognize and thank people when they are actually doing the right thing and being really helpful. Okay. I'm sure there are probably like a million things that I could say on this, but I think I'm going to start rambling if I go on. But those are the main things. I think show people how to behave, show young people what is the appropriate way to behave, model it, and explain to them clearly why certain things are not such a good idea.
Thank you. I like the one showing, because too often, people are saying to children, oh, don't do that, but they don't explain it. And when the young person say, well, I don't understand, etc., they're then being perceived as being rude. But we did not explain to them initially. So therefore, it's not rudeness, they just want to know. And sometimes we need to be so mindful of that. And I see that happen quite a lot with teachers who've been in the profession a very long time. It's like they would be saying something to this young person, and when the young person challenges it, it is then perceived as being rude. But then I have to remind them, it's not rude, because you did not explain, you've left them hanging, so they want an explanation. So, that's really is good. And in terms of, the reminder, sometimes, the reminder is needed and is necessary. Thank you for that. Catherine?
I thought I started. Did I start? So yeah, having the conversations. Yeah.
Yeah. I just remember you started. Oh my goodness. Lucy?
I keep forgetting to unmute. I think just like we recognize that we don't know other people's experiences, nor do they. And they don't know our lived experiences. So being able to talk about that and answer questions and encouraging them to ask questions. How was that? How did that make you feel? All of those things. And really understanding that anyone can learn from anyone, no matter their age, no matter their gender, no matter their race, and just having that open mind. I've actually myself had a hard time with a male colleague who is a bit older than me, and since I am a younger female, he does not want to learn from me, even though I am the head of his team. And it's been a difficult situation. And I think for myself, it's hard not to just shut down and say, like, I don't want, how can I help you understand these things? Like, I want to teach you, I want to help support you and mentor you. And in turn, our relationship has changed to him now being like, Lucy knows what she's doing, and he has now become a big advocate of mine in the workplace. So but for me not to just say, oh, I'm not talking to you because you think this, was honestly really hard. So having that like for males that want to continue to be our advocates, having that open mind and having that mindset of like, I can learn from anybody is huge and very important to keep.
Thank you. Louise?
Hi. I think generally speaking, I agree with what everyone's saying. Sorry, my background is a little noisy. We need to really improve our communication generally with men. And I think including them in the conversation in whatever we are doing. Sorry, there's a plane just going over. Including them in the conversation in what we're doing, and also making them advocates. I remember what you were saying, Debbie, about I had a male student in my class who everybody labeled him as a bit lazy and not very interactive and just generally rude. And I also took that persona on for a little while, but then I realized he was actually bored and actually I wasn't explaining some things properly. So I kind of let him take a leadership role within the classroom and that empowered him in terms of leading the session. And once he knew what he was doing, it went very well and it was very, very empowering. And from that point onwards, I treated him very differently and he related to me very differently.
Thank you. So it's a matter of not knowing what he needed, you know, because he didn't know what he needed and you didn't know what he needed. So as a result of that, you know, the communication wasn't very strong. The minute you identify that, it actually was a very empowering experience for him. So even that way, sometimes we need to be aware and listen to what's going on around us. Right, let's just pause and let me just introduce my next guest. Rashna, can you put your camera on, please? I know it's a different time in India, so I think that's the reason why are you hearing us? Are you hearing us?
Yes, ma'am, just a second, the lightings, yeah, just 1 minute, ma'am, just.
Okay.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are. You are. Are you able to put your camera on, please? Okay, right, we'll just continue until she actually able to join us fully. Simon, that same question to you, please. Simon, are you hearing me?
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So this question reminded me of an incident that happened a few days back at school, where there was this one guy crying because he scored less marks in his exam. And there was this friend who came to him and told him, "You're a man, you shouldn't cry." And my first instinct was to tell him that, "Oh, you're wrong. That's not right." But after hearing the strategies that other panelists said, I think it's better if we listen to what is causing this thought in him, where is it resulting from, what exactly is making him think that way. And like everyone else said, being open to his opinion and having an open mind and active listening when he's actually expressing what is causing him that thought, that would have been a better thing to do. But trial and error. So I told him that's not right. But I know the next time when something like this happens, there are other ways of taking it forward. So we could engage in a healthy communication and have a healthy conversation and actually come to a conclusion instead of just arguing about who is right and who's wrong.
That's very, very true. Thank you. Thank you, Rashna. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry for joining in late, and it's just because of the time schedule. Always I'm in trance, and thank you so much, Debbie ma'am, for inviting me with such eminent personalities. And I'm very, very honored to share the platform with all of you. And it's a pleasure for me. I am a professor for the last 26 years with the kids, teaching them, guiding them. And I always feel taking challenges and teaching students whom everyone would like to give them the backbenchers. So I am basically training the backbenchers and so that they can come to the front bench. So I always feel it as a pleasure, though everyone tells me that it's a difficult case to handle the backbenchers, but I really enjoy sitting with them in the backbench and trying to talk to them. I believe that they must have the wings to fly. Discipline is necessary, but with certain formulations, if we can implement the discipline, discipline should not cut away the wings from the children. So with that errand, I am doing on my job and my profession, little different from the others, though as a teacher, but yes, I enjoy being a social activist, a writer, author, and now in the department solving the NEP problems and as syllabus coach heading with the new syllabus and the curriculum, which we are planning to give it with the student basis implementation, activity-based programming instead of just the study-based programming. So thank you so much. Debna, if you could repeat the question because I just joined so late.
I do appreciate it. The fact that you're in India and, you know, these things does happen. That's the reason why I'm always late to your program as well. Right. One of the things we were looking at is how can we engage and inspire male advocates? Because we know we have some men behind us who are supportive, but how could we continue to inspire them and engage them to continue to be advocates?
Thank you so much. Yes, of course, the word woman itself has the word men in it. So we are never separated from them and we work hand in hand, but we need their collaborations together. It's not that always they need to come up to the upper end. So just to instigate a small example, being a lady teacher for the last 26 years, I had seen that mostly in the profession, we always are given the girls class and not the boys class, thinking that we will not be able to handle. So I don't think that is actually really a great decision on the part, because as teachers, we are unbiased, whether it's a girl or a boy. We are not gender biased. Rather, we teach them. So in the long run, even when we seek the support of the male counterpart, we do not want that we should move ahead of them, but at least we can move hand in hand with them. So to make them work with us, our ask is not that we want that position ahead of them, but at least our ask is that we should be allowed to work with them and they should treat us as equals, and at least that they should be thinking that we too can advocate certain policies, certain rules. Being in the education department, I have seen many a times we are being knocked out. That means given the back seat that our opinions will be considered in the end, but first opinions will be considered from the male professionals. So in that context, when I started my formulation, this is from my example, which I'm quoting, there was this department full of males. So when I started advocating my views, I just saw that they were all listening. First of all, we need them to listen to us. So if they listen to us, they will understand what exactly we want to say, rather than thinking or at the back of their head that we want to move ahead of them, stamping on their feet and going ahead of them. Nothing like that. As a female, as a teacher, we all want to work together so that we make the world a better place to live in. So my main intention, basically speaking, personally, in that meeting when I advocated my thoughts, for the first time, they were about to stand up and walk out, but then suddenly they came back, they went to the door and they again came back and they sat down slowly. So I was very impressed. And finally, before the meeting ended, they all told that, Rachna ma'am, you really said a very good points, which can be taken into indication. So we need not be very argumentative. We need not be so much authoritative in our speech when we are going vocal in our thoughts. So we can also be modest, polite, and make everyone understand, especially the male counterparts. They can listen to you, even if you're modestly speaking out your thoughts. So I hope I have been able to touch the points which you said. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Another question is, what obstacles as women do we still face in society and within our jobs?
Yes. Should I take that question, ma'am? Yeah. Okay. So there are obstacles as prevails in our job profiles also. We have faced in many obstacles. Like, for example, I gave one example already that we have been given the gender bias whenever we come. We have been pushed into the female class, that you can handle the female classroom and not the boys' classroom. That was the first case. Why not we? I just took up my case itself. So that is one where we are taught that we cannot handle extreme cases. Then secondly, which I felt is that as a female in the workplaces, which does not allow us to work very properly, is that when we are trying to say something, they don't want to listen. The first option which they give to us, the remark, or maybe the attitude in which they look at us, is that, oh, she will be speaking now. So the first thing is that they just get up, stand up, and they're about, okay, maybe secondly, they sit down and they listen. That is later on. But initially, you just are moved away with their action, with their feelings, their vibrations which they give. As a result, you who are about to say something which is very poignant, something which is very, very important, you are suddenly taken aback that, oh my God, how can this be the attitude of somebody when you are right now listening to somebody who was a male? But now when I stood up to speak something, you are just shaking yourself, looking here and there, what happened? Like, we have to bring back the concentration into it. That is second important thing. Thirdly, from my experience, when I wanted to open my own organization, so I approached the banks for loans. So it was really wondering, Debbie ma'am, to see that the bank personnel asked, who is there with you, along with you? I said, like, who am I supposed to bring? I am here myself to apply for the loan. Whom should I bring along with me? Like, then they are told maybe your husband or maybe your father, you are coming along. I said, but why? I myself have come for application of loan for my own institute. So why can't I apply? Why do I need a male along with me who can, advocate for me? I am myself okay. So that is one more thing which the trust factor, I feel, which the woman has been trying to establish on and again, though to some extent it has been removed. In India, still it dominates. I'm talking from Indian point of view. So it's still there. They still believe that the woman needs the support of the male, but we do not say that they are not there. We do not say that we don't need, but if it is my institute, if I want to do something for myself, why do I need to bring my husband along with me? I don't know, what is that? Is it a security? I had tried to talk with the bank officials time and again. I am working, my service record, you check it out. But then there is again this intuition that no, we need somebody. They talked here and there, and suddenly it was not falling into the places. They just need the signature or maybe whatever they feel that. So this is also another obstacle. Then the way they look at a female, maybe their dress, their attire, that is also very disturbing, though to some extent we have avoided, but still it prevails for the younger generation, especially the teenagers, when they are coming in and entering. So they too face all these problems. So these four main problems, if we can tackle it out, which I am trying from my level also, especially we as women, we should be very confident. If we become nervous in our approach, if we become little dicey in our approach, then we are being overruled. So we need to be very confident, and we should know what exactly we want to speak it out. So in that way, I feel that the male we need to fight over it. That is there still.
Thank you. So very true. Right, thank you, Catherine. What obstacles do women still face? And you as a woman in your profession, what are the obstacles that you are encountering?
So I think in many ways, I'm blessed to be surrounded by some great women leaders now, and that's been wonderful. But the biggest obstacle is the childcare. Understanding that balance and understanding that, you know, when your child's sick, it falls on the mom, which then shifts everything. So having that is an obstacle because maybe it's the perspective I'm in. It's just assumed, okay, you're in a role, you gotta keep moving without the child care being the issue. And that really puts us back in many ways. Um, there are still issues. When I was listening to her story this summer, I went down to a Marriott hotel and I got married there and we have wedding points, but it's in my husband's name. And they would not let me take the room, believe it or not, unless my husband called the hotel. And if you could imagine women who are leaving abusive situations or other things, this is huge. This is huge. So there still are issues. So it's important that we do have those conversations, no matter where we are in the world.
It is very true. It is so very true because I had a panel on Sunday, and that's one of the things one of the women from Africa brought up. The fact that some women in Africa cannot even be allowed to rent an apartment as women. They need to have a man to do it with them. And there are a lot of single women who cannot get an apartment because they are women. And it is so sad that we're talking about the 21st century. You know, it's really sad because when she actually said that, you know, some of us just look and thinking, really? And she was able to give experience, you know, examples of that. And you're thinking, wow, you can't even, you know, rent an apartment for yourself as a woman, as a single woman. You know, so we do need to bring up those conversations. People need to be aware of it is still happening in the 21st century. Thank you for that, Annie.
Can I say, I think some of those experiences that you've just been describing, you know, it's really shocking, isn't it? You know, I'm in my 50s. My mother described, you know, some of those things, you know, not being able to, you know, my dad's name had to be on the mortgage, you know, or when they rented houses, it had to be his name. She couldn't do so many things. And it's very easy to think, you know, we've kind of surely people are much more aware and people have gone beyond those things. But you know, even quite relatively close to home, as well as around the world, it's worthwhile reminding ourselves that, you know, we're in the UK, we're in a really privileged position. Having said that, I think what I think it was Kathleen was saying about childcare, I think that is a huge issue. You know, many years ago, I can remember when my kids were small and they were sick, my husband saying to his boss, I need to take tomorrow off because my kids are sick. And his boss saying to him, well, can't your wife do it? And you know, he knew I was a teacher as well. My husband said, well, she took the day off, it's my turn. And the head teacher had to sort of back down. You know, that's you know, I'd love to imagine that that conversation never happens now, you know, sort of 15, 20 years later. Sadly, I think even in this country, it probably still does happen. And it is, as you said, it's often put on the women. I also wanted to think about, you know, I teach so many young women who are very ambitious and determined to make the most of themselves. And, you know, we can spend a lot of time you know, putting our hearts and souls into empowering them, and they're going off to university. And worryingly, I don't always see as much from the boys, as much ambition from the boys, and that's a whole nother issue. But we know that girls do better in this country at 16, at 18. You know, there's really only maths and physics, I think it is, that they, you know, don't do, you know, they don't outperform the boys. And they go off to university, and then by the time they get the degrees, everything seems to equalize. So they've spent years working hard in school and they've been ahead, and then suddenly at 21 or 22, when they leave university, it's suddenly equal. and that doesn't translate into fast progression in work and in other places. I don't know why that is. I'm sure it has a lot to do with the kind of attitudes that we've tried so hard to get rid of. But it's, I suppose, on one side it's a good thing that girls have, now they do take their academic careers seriously. They are ambitious. They expect to have some kind of career and a good job and, lives of their own, rather than, just leave school at 16 and get married and have children. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but for, girls need to have options. But I guess that means that the next challenge is that going into their 20s and then going on into their 30s, as Lucy was saying, you grow so much in your 20s and you get so many really powerful and useful experiences, which are your absolute rock, your foundation for the rest of your life. The challenge is for young women to actually be able to make another breakthrough in going into their 20s once they leave university, if they manage to get to university. And that's a strange, invisible obstacle that we can't quite define at the moment, but it's definitely there. Okay, that's my suggestion.
Thank you very much for that. It is very, very true. Very, very true. Thank you. Lucy?
I'm so sorry. Can you repeat the question one more time? Oh, I think you're muted. I think you were muted.
Sorry. Right. I was looking at you as a woman. What are some of the obstacles that you have faced in terms of either your employment, either, in society as a whole? What are some of the, obstacles?
I just wanted to be sure I was answering. I feel like no, but men know about it or not, they or not. And it's something that then we like weight on our shoulders. And some days it can make days really hard, like what we were saying, your time of the month, that can be really difficult. And I think that all of these little things, even Kathleen saying that she had to call, her husband had to be on the phone for her to use the points. I had that with I saw my mother-in-law experience that. I saw my mother experience renting a car and not being able to be a driver because she didn't have the same last name as my father. And all of these small lived experiences really add up. Like I said before, I've had my own experiences at work with someone not thinking that like I could do my job and doubting what I had to say. And so I think there's all these little things that add up that really then make it feel so much heavier and bigger. And so I'm glad that we actually talked about male advocacy and what other women but also males can do to help and support one another, because it just sometimes feels like the list goes on and on.
I think Debbie's gone off for a little while. I'll just add to that in terms of, I think it's really difficult balancing everything in terms of being a woman, balancing the childcare, balancing, your career, etc. I remember once I was teaching somewhere and, my children were maybe 10 and a baby, and I was at home folding the clothes and thinking about what I have to do tomorrow, teaching, lesson plan, all of that. And I just burst out crying because I was thinking, I can't do all of this. I can't do it. It's too much. And knowing at that time I couldn't work part-time, couldn't afford to. But I think balancing everything, and also I think being in leadership roles can be very challenging, and certain obstacles within society stop us from perhaps assuming those leadership roles. I've had leadership roles myself, and I'm thinking, I don't want it, because I just don't want the headache now. I've done it, I've got experience of it, and I don't want it. You know, any thoughts?
Yep, I feel the same way too. Been there, done it, and thinking, no way. You know, and when you were doing it, you were juggling all the balls and you're tired. You're not thinking, now I really don't want it, because now I feel that I have a choice. Whereas before, I didn't feel that I had much of a choice, because, you know, as a parent and as wife and everything else, you know, I didn't feel there was a much of a choice, because it's having to juggle everything. But now I feel I have a choice. I'm not going to do it. It's okay. Let me just be a teacher. I'm good. So I see exactly what you're talking about. I see that, you know. Do you want to pick up on that, or you want me to pass you, Saiba?
Just something really quick, like a summary of what everyone said. I think it brings down to the discussion that we had earlier, which is about women taking you as a competition. So that is one of the challenges that I face. Luckily, I have really good colleagues, and the atmosphere and the environment around me is really good. But I usually face a lot of judgments or assumptions about whether I will be able to handle my work or not. And it all comes down to women taking you as a competition instead of being supportive. So I think that has to go. That's one of the challenges that I've been facing. But I think one way is to be clear in my approach and be sure that I'm not taking anybody as a competition, and I'm being supportive towards them first. So if I'm being the change that I want to see, then hopefully I can wish for the same with others.
Yes, hi. Yes, yes, yes. Sorry, I was just trying to, you know, one of the children came in the room and I just had to mute them. Yes, thank you very much for that. Rashna?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yes. Yeah, I was just hearing that, yes, I had some examples which I already said that, yes, it's true, but yes, it needs to be sorted out. It needs to be talked about, and we cannot just hide it from each other. It is not something which we should be ashamed of. We have been facing time and again, but if we as a community speak of it, talk it out loudly, and solve it out, you know, supporting each other, giving them the confidence that, yes, we all can do it. It's nothing that, you know, I couldn't do it. Oh my God, I have to put my head down and walk away home. Today, somebody had abused me, or today I couldn't prove my worth in front of all the male in the office or in my classroom, whatever, wherever in my workplace, I couldn't show myself or prove myself. There's nothing to prove. We are here to do something for the society. And if we can do that, it's already proved. There's no need of anyone to give us any certificates to prove our authority or prove that whatever we have done is correct. So we need to have that firm belief in us that what we are doing, that we have done it greatly. And just we need to take a hand and put a pat on our backs. There is no one going to come from the blue moon and tell that, oh my God, you are amazing. Saima, you are amazing. Annie, you are truly, truly so good person. And this will make us move ahead. No, not necessary. We know that what we are doing is correct. And we are doing for the betterment of the society, or in whatever way it might be. It might be just a drop, just a ripple, which we are trying to bring. So that doesn't mean that if somebody tells us that you are good, then we are good. If somebody doesn't tell us that you are not good, we are not good. It's not that we don't need any recognition. We have to keep on doing our work without looking behind, keep on moving ahead, maybe baby steps, whatever it is. But we need to walk ahead in the path of progress, whether we get the support of others or not. We turn behind, and if no one is there, it's okay, fine. It's not necessary. They will follow sooner or later. That is that firm belief. I also train, being a social activist myself. I'm training the women from the grassroots level to come out, to voice out. It's very necessary. We don't need the support of anyone, and neither am I telling anyone to go completely loud and break the bombs and shouting out. It's not a debate. It's that we are just trying to prove what we're trying to do. So we need not make it a big, loud shout out to everyone. But yes, continue with our work, which we have been doing with confidence, with firm belief, without getting distressed and depressed that what we did is not obliged by the male community. So that doesn't need their obligations or their certificates to move ahead. We know we have been doing. We will keep on trying. Just as Kathleen told just now that in the community hall and all, the husband's signature is made and they confirm it with the husband. So yeah, these are small things which we always face in day-to-day life. There is always a dependency on our husband. I am not telling to tell the truth. I have complete support of my own husband. So that is a different factor altogether. But yes, there are many women who are facing the problem because of this. They are not able to move one step ahead because they need their confidence from the better half coming in. It's not necessary. Let me tell you, all the ladies who's listening us today, that it is not necessary. You should be always truthful to your work, to your job. And if you are doing that honestly, let me tell you, you do not need any praises. Take your own hand, take your own right hand, and then just put it on your back, left back, and just say, oh, wow, wonderful. You have done a great job. You don't need anyone to do that for you. So we all need to discuss, and thank you, Debbie, so much for picking up this topic and discussing those. I'm very sorry. I'm going to go back and listen to all the other ladies' comments. I joined in late, but yes, I'm going to listen. It's really very important that we talk it out, and we have a community like this with like-minded people who can really voice out their thoughts, and we stand for each other in every single small window and do some amazing work together.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks a lot. We know that this year International Women's Day theme was innovation and technology. What does that mean to you as a woman? Annie.
I was gonna jump in because that's my life. That's my life.
Okay, go for it, Kathleen.
So I created a technology. So I think we need to have innovation. I think that we need to all be innovating each other all the time. I do believe we are in the tech revolution, and I do believe that this isn't something that's going to go away. We need to embrace it. We need to come together as a whole group and support one another because time's changing.
Yeah, it is so very important. And I feel that, I think it was last week, Wednesday show, I had some, women from technology. And the sad thing about it, in this day and age, you still have male dominated, and males still feel that the women still have to take second seats. And it's quite sad, really sad. Anyway, before I continue, Annie, what are your thoughts on that? International Women's Day theme is innovation and technology. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, I almost couldn't unmute myself then. I was that tech savvy. I love technology. I'm a history and sociology teacher, so you wouldn't necessarily think that I'd be particularly into technology. But I just think it's doing some fabulous things. It's some terrible things as well, but really amazing things, particularly around learning. And certainly, one of the amazing things about COVID was that we all suddenly, in the space of about 3 weeks, became technology experts. We had to. And, the school that I teach in is, because it's an exceptionally deprived intake, it was a school where initially at the very first sort of lockdown, the very beginning of COVID, we had so few children who had any kind of IT equipment, even phones. We realized, excuse me, at one point that so the children or families were being issued with vouchers for food, because obviously a lot of our children, they're free school meal children, and they weren't getting their free school meals, and there were concerns about whether or not children were actually being fed properly because the parents were struggling to feed them. And so eventually the government produced vouchers, and it was a very chaotic system, but it happened. And there were advantages if the parents could download the vouchers. They could choose where they spent the vouchers. Whereas if they had them printed out, they had to be for a designated shop, like a local supermarket. And it might not be the supermarket that was particularly convenient for the families, certainly not necessarily the supermarket that had the food or the cheapest food that they might have wanted to access. And a really big proportion of the parents in our school asked for printed out vouchers because they literally didn't have the ability to, they might have a phone, but it was, on one of those contracts like a pay and go contract, and they couldn't guarantee that they would have the internet data to go to a shop and actually use the vouchers. And that's really quite shocking when you imagine that everyone in the UK probably has a phone and has internet access and has Wi-Fi and so on. Well, no, actually they didn't have Wi-Fi, and they had very little data or access. And they certainly didn't have computers or tablets or anything like that. And the head teacher actually went to the newspapers because the government was promising all sorts of laptops and equipment and so on for our children, and we were getting almost nothing. And as I say, this is a very, very deprived, exceptionally deprived area. Well, I don't know where all the computers were going, but they weren't coming to the children with the most deprivation. And so the head teacher contacted someone in a national newspaper and gave an interview, nice photographs, and that went out on the Saturday. And on the Tuesday, we had about 30 computers, laptops arrive for our children. So in this area, we've had to fight to get the kind of equipment and access for the children. But then, of course, once the children had those, and they got sort of SIM cards which they could use to access the internet. And then, of course, we were suddenly teaching online, and that was a phenomenal learning curve. And I think also for the the companies that provide things like Google Classroom and Teams and so on, their abilities or the things that we could do with those changed rapidly as they kind of updated. And it was a really amazing period, really dreadful period, but also a really amazing period for beginning to see what the possibilities are. And I'm quite skeptical about certain companies saying, oh, the future is not teachers standing in classrooms, it's all going to be online and it's going to be our packages. Well, I don't actually think that you can kind of do without the human touch and the interaction, because children really need that. But it is amazing that the kind of packages and things that are now available to help us and support us, with our teaching, with the children's learning. And, thanks to people like Kathleen, I'm sure, producing really innovative things and seeing an opportunity and actually having the determination in innovation to make those things available. That's having a much bigger impact, I think, on students' learning, on us teaching, than these huge, multi-billionaire sort of companies producing things, because they have a vision which is not rooted in the classroom. They don't really understand what children need. So thank you very much to everyone who is producing, things in the way that Kathleen is, because it is having an impact. And I'm just really happy to have developed a huge number of skills in recent years. Who would have thought 5 years ago that we would spend so long on Zoom calls and learn so much and meet people from around the world? It's just fantastic. So there you go. That's my feeling.
It is so very true, because it's like when we were thrown on the online system, my first session where students, I didn't even realize I had to take control of the platform. Students were actually taking out my PowerPoint. And I remember the night I spent, it's like anytime I put the PowerPoint up, it was disappearing. I keep on saying to them, I'm sure I put this up here now. And it keep on disappearing. And I remember that night I spent all night on YouTube trying to learn how to mute them, how to take control. The next day when I mute them, they said, Miss, you muted us. And I wrote, yes. Right. And that was real innovative for me. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, now I have control of this platform. But, you know, we were thrown at the deep end and we had no choice. It's either sink or swim. And if you sank, you're in trouble. So you had to find a way to swim. And I just know I had to swim. I had no choice, because the students were actually controlling my platform because I didn't know what to do. You know, so that was one of my, you know, my really thing when it came to this online platform. Yes, Louise?
Hi, sorry, I'm just eating some crisps. In terms of innovation and technology, I think when COVID first hit, it was really difficult for a lot of students because they didn't have access to technology, etc., as we were saying before. And my son didn't have a laptop. And we were all in the house working on different laptops, etc. And it was really mentally challenging, very, very challenging. But also what I wanted to bring in was thinking about third world countries, or I shouldn't use that term, but countries that don't have as much technology, etc. And I know here in Jamaica, in the Caribbean, they had an initiative to bring tablets and laptops into school, and that's still going on, and bringing internet to rural and remote communities to engage children, because during the COVID, they lost loads of children to learning. They just dropped out because they didn't have tablets, parents didn't have the resources, etc. So I think as a result of COVID, there's been lots of changes and developments in technology, etc. For me personally, I think, yes, I've also learned a lot. I wasn't directly teaching in COVID. Well, the first part, the other part I was. And I think I've had to quickly learn things as well, as Debbie said, to keep up with students. I remember recently, one of my students showed me how to do Kahoot. I didn't know how to log on and use it as a learning tool, etc. And what I did was I just empowered that student. I said, go ahead, let's show us. And she took the class and she left the class. And that was a learning experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Rashna?
Yeah, this goes a long way, a story behind actually to come up. And it's really thankful that this year, the International Women's Day is celebrated with innovation and technology, which I truly, truly appreciate for gender equality, which is needed right now, the need of an hour. We have all struggled through the pandemic as women, and now we see the virtual world. There are a lot of technologies which are coming in, the AI, the augmented reality, which has been changed into with the technology which has come in. And I feel there are women also in this sector now, in that topmost position, who are actually taking about for the security of the woman in all the factors. If we talk about the augmented reality and the virtual reality, which now we are working at, and we are using that technology now in our studies also, most probably, though restricted right now to some certain institutions, because being into the technology also, I'm into the technology also to some extent. And I have been training the teachers during the pandemic also to with the soft skills, and trained them with how to make the PowerPoint and how to make their learnings more accessible. So as Debbie ma'am said that, yes, there were many teachers who really did not know how to mute. So I had a really great, I just loved that factor, that teaching them, my own colleagues, we were not knowing that they didn't knew. I enjoyed prior to that, because I had that knowledge. So it was not that something big thing which I had achieved. It was nothing like that. until the pandemic came, they didn't knew that they had to use technology because it was not necessary. We were using the chalk and dust method, and we were doing very well. I know all my colleagues will also agree to that. Nobody had any problem before that and after that. But during the pandemic, we faced, and then it was nice learning process with my colleagues. We had a lot of team made up, and we got to know each other. And as a result, we joined in. And now, which I am doing right now, is with the virtual reality meetings, which we have now. This is just in Zoom, Debbie. Let me tell you that now we have our own avatars made, and we have the meetings in that format. So it's no longer this meeting Zoom meets. So the reality has gone to a diverse 360-degree metaverse platform, which we are talking about. Even when we are talking about William Wordsworth's daffodils, we can feel the daffodils there in art with the 360-degree virtual reality, the augmented reality. Technology has gone diverse even. And as women also, we are not away from it. Of course, there was this problem of the cyber security for the women, that there were a lot of crimes, cyber crimes coming in, and the women needed to be very protective because their data, their other photographs and the Zoom meets, whatever that could be leaked out. So as a result, the security system needed to be more enforced. And for that, we needed more women personalities working in this platform in the topmost level so that they could also think about the other parts. As of now, the working was only for the technology. They never thought about the security, which is very important. But now the systems have been mainly made, incorporated into such a packed thing that there can be no such problems coming in cyber crimes, cyber security. They are very active. The team which is working behind it are very, very active. So this year's theme, they have taken it as a technology. So it's really very important that the women who are still behind and they still need to know, they should get joined in with other women who really are into it and working with it. And I am really enjoying actually, because being an educator, when we talk about the virtual reality and we teach our students in that platform, when we can give that feel which was missing, we can make PowerPoint presentation and show them. But how much will we show? It is just a platform. But if we go to this augmented reality and we see in the metaverse platform, all the poems of Wordsworth becomes lively, as if we are into that daffodils. We are feeling that, beyond the Holocaust, we can see the full list of daffodils floating, dancing and floating in the breeze. So it's just like when you're learning about science, you can feel the organs of the body. And instead of going to the morgue and sitting there for hours with putting a mask on your face, here, just with the help of your virtual reality, you are able to teach a child the different parts of the human body. So technology has gone far, and women as teachers too, they are using it. It is not that difficult. It's only that we need to give one step ahead. We need to come out and give one step ahead. And their technology is so very developed that every step they tell us next what to do. So next what to do. It is predefined steps. So anyone, even though they are not associated with technology, I feel everyone should come up and use technology for their benefits, not just for the sake of learning. If you keep that in mind, the trauma in mind, that I'm learning it for the first time, then you will face difficulties. But if you enjoy it as a means of learning and enjoyment and making your forte more stronger with the help of technology, then you will surely come up, and nothing can stop you. It's just like learning and moving one step ahead. It's nothing difficult. It's very easy. So I would request all my female co-partners and the associates listening to us tonight that they should all remove all this inefficiency and delve deep into technology and find out. We are not here to plan any software devices. We are just here to use the software which already is there in the market. We just need to use it and make proper care of it, and you make our studies and education more very productive and understandable. So that is how I am using, and I am really enjoying the metaverse platform, the augmented reality, the virtual reality, in diverse platforms. Debbie, let me tell you, we have now the different platforms. I can sit here and go to UK and be there with you in a same table. We can sit together and sip a cup of coffee and have the meeting together in the round table conference too. It's a different feeling that we both can sit together side by side with our different avatars, with maybe a formal wear which we can wear, different designed dresses, and talk to each other for hours together in a different virtual reality. It's totally very, very enriching, and the conversations becomes more one step ahead. So it's really good that we all should work ahead and use technology for our benefits.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, actually. Thank you very much. Right, what one thing we want to leave, what one thing we want to say to people in relationship to, women empowerment, either yourself or other people, and, what one thing you want to leave with people? What's the one thing? You could have two if you want to. As women, one or two things we want to say, okay, as International Women's Year or month comes to a close, what do we want to leave out? What do we want to put out there for society, for us as women? Yeah, I think I've got it right this time. Louise?
I was just writing. I was just going to say, to be your best self, be the best version of yourself that you can be, despite various obstacles, etc. And let's try to empower and support each other.
Thank you for that. Catherine?
Yeah, I was thinking of community support, supporting one another, and making sure that we align ourselves with the right people at the table, right? Really making sure that we're with people who are going to lift us up, empower us, and make us be the best versions of ourselves, along with our own self, right?
Thank you. Rashna?
Yes, nice. I was just waiting to listen to all of you and then say my own say, because I think I say a lot being a teacher myself. Whenever it comes to me, I just keep on speaking. Yes, as my say would be that always try to have your own confidence in yourself, which I've been saying throughout, that believe in yourself. What you do is the truth. And be that humbleness, bring that humbleness. We are not here to dominate somebody. We are here to work together, to collaborate. So always be humble and believe in yourself, trust in yourself, and keep that humbleness in you and that little smile in you, which will make you move ahead, and never get depressed or demotivated by anything which you know that you have never done. So always take the path of progress and never get demotivated by anything. So be the best, which already they have said, be the best in you and try to always motivate yourself. You are your own motivators.
Thank you. Something I said all the time, be bold, be brave, be positively blatant. Thank you very much, guys. It's been a fantastic session on the platform. Take care. Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening, night where you are. And I do appreciate you guys. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.